Sure now.
The next question. Excuse me, sir. The next question. What is your plan for the development of community centers, such as the Kroc Center in the 34th Ward and U.S. Bank of Pullman Community Center in the 9th Ward? So again, what is your plan for the development of community centers? This will be for candidate Alencar.
Having knocked on a lot of doors throughout the ward, community centers are one of the top concerns of a lot of our residents. We do need some community centers around here. The two mentioned by Mr. Downs, I apologize, the two mentioned by Mr. Downs were both very long-term projects that required the working together with other aldermen throughout the city council and with the mayor's office. It could not have happened without that work, without those people cooperating with each other. I pride myself on being able to establish good working relationships. I've been able to do that my entire life, and I will continue to do that as 10th Ward Alderman. I'll make sure that we have the right relationships with the right people in the city to make sure that we can bring some of those resources here, so next time the question's asked, we're not referring to the 9th Ward and the 30-something Ward, we can maybe talk about the one that's here in the 10th Ward.
So we will be getting a community center. The Claretians bought the YMCA, and that will be turned into a community center. It'll be in South Chicago at the Y. It'll be a center that's open to the community. The pool will be fixed. There will be community programming. There will be after-school programming and things for the community. So that will be a community center. I'd like to have more community centers as well, but they cost money and they have to be sustainable. We have to pay the gas, the heat, the light, and the people that work there need to be paid as well. So if we can work to find somebody to open a community center that can sustain that, but it has to be sustainable. So I'm proud that the YMCA will be a community center. No membership or anything like that.
Mr. Alencar, would you like to say? This next question is on a very similar topic. How will you show support towards the up-and-coming youth organizations of the Southeast Side? Alderman Garza will answer this question first.
Sure. So before I took this job, I worked for CPS for 22 years, and I ran an after-school program called Safe Kids for 15 years. I've always supported youth. I've actually brought opportunities and chances for them that no other school did. I started my program with 20 kids, and when I left CPS 4 years ago, we were in 4 different schools with 128 children. So I've always done that. I've supported youth, kids that worked for me. That we have summer interns, winter interns. We have youth in our office all the time. Some of the kids that were in our program now work for me. And I work with the high school. There's a student voice committee here that is fantastic. Some of those kids were in my after-school program, and I continue to work with youth throughout the ward.
I also support programs for our youth, and I would also support up-and-coming youth organizations. It's a difficult question to answer without specifying which up-and-coming youth organizations we are talking about. However, generally speaking, we want to keep kids involved in the community. We want to give them something to do after school. We have a problem in the 10th Ward when it comes to crime. Any long-term solution to crime requires that these kids have something to do and something to spend their time on. This is one where Alderwoman and I are in agreement. We both support community organizations, youth organizations. Thank you.
Alderman Garza, would you like 30 seconds?
I'm good.
This next question will go to candidate Alencar. While lack of police presence in Beat 433 continues to be an issue and crime continues to rise, what plans do you have to work with CPD and the 004 District Commander, Torado, to either add additional dedicated beat car or split the beat? Do you plan to work with the commander to establish true beat integrity to keep the citizens of Hegewisch with a police presence at all times?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, this question came up on our virtual meet and greet yesterday. For those of you who may not be aware, yesterday we had a virtual live meet and greet. I put myself out there on Facebook Live and answered any questions that anyone might have. So if I don't have enough time to answer the question in 2 minutes, feel free to revisit that video. It's out there. But I absolutely will work with the 4th District Commander to make sure that police resources are allocated as necessary in 10th Ward. One of the problems, as was mentioned with the beat that covers Hegewisch, is that a good chunk of it extends to the southern end of the east side. It's incredibly difficult for one police officer to cover that entire area. I will work with the 4th District Commander to make sure that he has what he needs, or he or she needs, to cover Hegewisch. If it's a matter of he or she not having the proper resources, I will fight to make sure that the police officers have whatever resources they need to fight the crime.
This has been an issue for a long time, and I've been fighting to make sure to see if we can get beat 433 split and actually make a new beat 435 so that 433 is not so as big as it is. Because I agree with Bobby, it's too big for one car. One of the things that Fred Waller, not just the commander, because it has to come from the command center, Fred Waller, who's head of the beat patrol, has to be the one to designate the car. I've been in conversations with him, and he's looking at numbers, and unfortunately, one of the things that happens is because Hegewisch has such a low crime rate, they can't justify another car there, which we all know that we want a car before things get worse, right? So we're working with Fred Waller and the commander to try to get another beat car there. I proposed the idea of splitting the beat and making another beat 435. So it's in their hands. We just have to push back together to try to make sure that happens.
When it comes to splitting the beat, that's probably a good idea in the long run, but we want to make sure that the police officers on the ground have what they need now, and I think the 4th District Commander has a lot of discretion on where he puts his people. The other thing we want to make sure of is that people call 911 when they see something. If the police don't know about it, they don't know how to allocate their resources. If there's a crime, you want to make sure that they know so that they put resources where they need to be and they look at the statistics to make those determinations.
Thank you. This question will be for Alderman Garza. The question reads, too many people are being injured and killed in auto collisions. Southeast side drivers are out of control. What will you do as an alderperson to develop, implement, and enforce a traffic safety plan that brings speeds down, catches and fines offenders, and makes our streets and intersections safe throughout the ward?
So this is a big problem. We have a lot of stop signs that people don't stop at, and we get calls in my office all the time that says they're running the stop signs, they're running the stop signs. Other than giving people the books of rules of the road, it's people always want to have a police officer stopped at a corner and monitoring that stop sign. That's not feasible because they have a lot of more important things to do, I believe. We can't. I don't know how to enforce traffic laws when it's common sense and we've all have a driver's license. So people need to look at what the stop signs are, slow down and obey the traffic rules. And then we wouldn't have to take valuable resources away from the police to sit at a stop sign to make sure that people aren't running it.
I agree that it's not feasible to have a police officer on every corner monitoring every stop sign, but there are things that we can do to encourage people to slow down a little bit. Some of the things that are being done in other neighborhoods include speed humps, roundabouts at intersections, and what's called bump outs. What a bump out is when you're crossing a crosswalk, and you see it in downtown a lot, the sidewalk comes out to the street so that the intersection's a little narrower. Right there, the lanes are a little narrower. Studies have shown that cars have a natural tendency to slow down when they're entering into one of these bump out areas. It works. One of the problems we have here with respect to putting those in South Chicago, for example, with respect to how the vaulted sidewalks are, you cannot build a nice looking bump out because the areas where there are vaulted sidewalks, it cannot support the structure. So kind of sidetracking and getting away from the point, but there are things we can do to encourage people to slow down a little bit and make our streets safer, aside from putting a police officer on every intersection, which of course is not feasible.
Right. So we do have bump outs, and we do have bump outs in our ward, and we do have speed bumps. Those do exist. Unfortunately, people just it can't be everywhere because bump outs and speed bumps cost money that will come out of our menu money. So CDOT doesn't pay for that stuff, it comes out of our menu money. So, I mean, I agree with you, it will slow people down, but we don't have enough money to put that on every single corner because we're the biggest ward in the whole city, and 1.3.9 million doesn't go very far. It will literally do, if we took that, sorry.
One more. Of
No,
course,
I'm sorry, sir. It's okay, this next one's very similar to that. And you will start first. Actually, this is a little too similar. This question, I'll give you both 30 more seconds on this one because it's come up a second time. What will you do to enforce traffic stop signs, specifically at 118th and J that has been ignored?
I'm sorry, which intersection?
118th and J.
Okay.
So 30 more seconds for each.
Just want to finish up on the last one. Of course, we can't put a bump out on every intersection. It does cost a lot of money. However, we can target areas where speeding is a problem. We do want those bump outs on our commercial districts. Also, the aldermanic menu money is not the only tool available to us. We have TIF monies that can be spent on these things too. According to the report released by the city, close of 2017, there was a total of close to $16 million in South Chicago, covering the 3 TIFs that are up in South Chicago. We need to be using that money to make these things possible. It's not just the aldermanic menu money.
So your numbers are totally incorrect when you're talking about our TIF. Your numbers are way off. That money's allocated for certain projects and it goes elsewhere. I don't know where you found those numbers, but they're wrong. There's not even $3 million in the South Chicago TIF. So those are incorrect. Vaulted side, and what else was it? 118th and J. We have used money to improve traffic routes. We have put roundabouts, we have put bump outs, and we have used things to put speed bumps in there.
And I think the reason I just
we have some.
I want to clear something up.
I can't allow us to go breaks breaking any rules.
There's
I'm
more than
sorry,
one
sir.
TIF in South Chicago.
South Chicago TIF and commercial
This
TIF.
question will
And
be
Southwest.
for Alderwoman Garza. One of the current mayoral candidates advertised in favor of reducing the number of aldermen in the city. Are you in favor of this policy? Why or why not?
Is it to me?
Yes, to you first.
I am not in favor of cutting the city council in half. I mean, there are some wards that are a lot smaller than ours, but I think if you just cut this ward, if you made the 10th ward and the 9th ward together, it would be virtually impossible to deliver city services with one person. It's just too hard. The city's too big and there's just too many people.
Thank you.
I agree. The ward right now is about 50,000 people, and if you dilute the representation to that in half, I don't think we're going to get the representation we need in City Hall.
All right, thank you. That was a lot of agreement there. This question will go to Mr. Lonkar first. What is your position on access to the ballot? Do you support a more liberal view allowing easier access for potential candidates, or should it be tougher to run for elected office?
I do believe in the democratic process. I take a liberal approach on access to the ballot. You see it every election, not just at the local level, but people arguing over technicalities and, who got, how many signatures or whatever. I take a liberal approach when it comes to access to the ballot. I say let democracy work and let the system play out.
I do take a liberal approach on the ballot. I think that Chicago does a really good job of allowing people to vote. You can vote by mail, you can vote by internet, we have almost 3 weeks of early voting. There's some places, when we're in Iowa, you have 1 day and 4 hours and that's it. And if you don't get there, you don't vote. So there's no reason why people can't vote in the city of Chicago. I do think that there should be a cap on financing though, on financing on campaigns. I don't think one guy should write a check for $20 million and give it to somebody to run for office because it takes the little guy out of the picture and they're not able to run then.
I just realized that we might have interpreted the question differently. Did you mean access to the ballot and being able to go out there and vote, or access to the ballot and being able to get on the ballot?
I believe the question is in regards to allowing a candidate onto the ballot so that they can run for office.
That's the question I answered.
Okay.
Alderman Garza, I believe you had another minute still on your clock. If you'd like to add time to your other question, answer more of that question.
So there are rules there's rules that need to be followed to get on the ballot, and I think that if you need, 700 signatures, those signatures should be good and they should be on the ballot. There's a rule that says you can't use people that are notarizing from Indiana. You can't have people signing from Cal City. You can't have people signing from Lansing. You have to have people from your district to make sure that in order to get on the ballot, and those rules need to be followed.
Rules do need to be followed, but I'm talking about the really technical stuff, like, did I sign Bobby Longcar or did I sign Robert Longcar? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Of course, if you only need 473 signatures, you should only have to get 473 signatures. You shouldn't be able to come in with anything lower than that. But when we talk about these technicalities, I have a very liberal approach on access to the ballot.
So I get 30 seconds. So your signature must reflect what your voter card says. Bottom line.
Exactly. That's the law.
That's the law.
Thank you.
The law.
So this question will go to Alderman Garza first. And again, this is one of those that I'm reading as written. Sue, why, after publicly protesting pollution during your campaign, did you sponsor a resolution shortly after taking office to give the RMG scrap recycler a tax break so it could stay open? Did you not foresee any potential environmental hazards, such as the merger and impending relocation of General Iron to 116th and Burley? And for Bobby, would you have made the same decision as Sue Garza did, having served in the role of alderman at that time?
Thanks, Josie. Anyway, first of all, let me tell you something. In 2015, that 6B was given to that company because, first of all, 6Bs are traditionally given to brand new businesses coming in. The city passed an ordinance to give existing businesses that have been here for a long time a chance to fix their crumbling infrastructure. That was given to them to fix their crumbling infrastructure. And the reason that the city did that was to be able to keep employers in the city. That employer employs over 350 people, with almost 30% coming from our ward. The money, first of all, in 2015, General Iron was never in the picture. General Iron still isn't in the picture. And that's the fact. So it wasn't given to them as a tax break. It was given to them as an incentive to fix crumbling infrastructure and to make sure that they stay in the city of Chicago to keep our jobs here.